Tiny but mighty, silent but strategic. What can we possibly learn from ants? Ant more than you think. Welcome to the ants, God's tiny giants, where we dig deep into the wisdom of these small creatures and uncover powerful life lessons hidden in their tiny footsteps. From the Bible to biology, today's video will open your eyes to how God uses even the smallest of beings to teach us about hard work, unity, perseverance, and divine order. In the hush of dawn, before voices rise and engines hum, there is a quiet movement beneath the veil of dew, not with the thunder of hooves nor the grandeur of wings, but in a silent, tireless procession. Ants, tiny architects of order, discipline, and unity, begin their daily sermon in the soil. Bible also say, "Go to the ant, O sluggard. Consider her ways and be wise." We, the stewards of skyscrapers and satellites, often miss the masterpieces beneath our very feet. We chase brilliance in thunderous displays, yet overlook the divine whispers in the dust. Ants unseen, uncelebrated, easily crushed, yet chosen by God as tutors in wisdom. God did not say, "Look to the lion for strength," or "Watch the eagle for vision." Instead, he pointed us to the ground, to the smallest among us. Not for their might, but for their mindset. Not for their fame, but for their faithfulness. In a world that worships what is loud, tall, and proud, God invites us to stoop low, to look carefully, and to learn from what crawls rather than what roars. For in the ant, there is a quiet brilliance, a discipline that does not need a stage, and a wisdom that walks silently but surely. It is said that King Solomon, the wisest man to walk the earth, spent hours as a boy in quiet wonder beneath the palace gardens, his gaze fixed on the tiny, tireless travelers beneath his feet. Long before biologists would classify them as Formicidae, Solomon discerned what God had already woven into creation, that greatness often marches quietly in small form. In the ant, he saw divine design, precision without pride, motion without chaos, and strength born of unity. The ants are a people not strong, yet they prepare their food in the summer. Ants do not possess kings, yet they work in perfect rhythm. They hold no councils, yet they operate with strategy. They neither boast nor beg, yet each ant finds sufficiency without stealing from another. Individually, they are fragile, but together, they shift soil, build kingdoms, and survive storms. Instinct is their guide, but intention is their message. They don't shout commands. They show up with consistency. Where humans plan and hesitate, the ant simply does with diligence, foresight, and faith in the unseen. The common ant, though tiny, can carry loads up to 50 times its own body weight, the human equivalent of hoisting a city bus. But strength is only the beginning of its wonder. Some species create living bridges, linking their bodies together so others can cross safely over gaps and dangers. Others, like the noble Matabele ant, form rescue squads, braving enemy lines to retrieve their wounded, carrying them home to heal. These are not chaotic acts of chance, but deliberate acts of collective care. Bear one another's burdens, and so fulfill the law of Christ. What a humbling irony. In a world where humans often step over the fallen in pursuit of personal gain, it is the ant, an insect of no renown, that models mercy and loyalty without hesitation. It does not need scripture to act in sacrificial love. It simply obeys the order imprinted by the Creator. They don't just survive, they serve. They don't abandon the weak, they become the bridge. Where man forgets, the ant remembers. The strength of one is the strength of all. When the smallest bear the weight of others, they carry the fingerprints of God. Have you ever truly observed an anthill? Not just as a mound of dirt, but as the masterpiece it is, a subterranean city sculpted without tools, plans, or sight. Beneath the surface lies a world of architectural brilliance. Interlocking chambers, intricate ventilation shafts, and even waste disposal zones. All designed not by engineers but by instinct coded into the ant by its creator. Some ants, like the leafcutter, take this design further. They don't carry leaves for food. No, they farm. They cultivate fungus in underground gardens, breaking down leaves to nourish their crops. These are farmers without hands, agriculturalists without sight, yet they sustain entire colonies. By wisdom a house is built, and through understanding it is established. The ant lives this scripture, not with sermons or blueprints, but with obedience to divine instinct. Their every movement whispers the wisdom of God in motion. They remind us, you don't need a pulpit to preach, your work can testify. You don't need sight to see clearly when guided by design. You don't need strength to build, only wisdom and unity. If such wisdom was planted in the smallest of creatures, how much more has God invested in us? Imagine one ant, alone, scrambling for food, exposed to the elements, vulnerable to every threat. It won't survive long. But place that ant in a colony, and suddenly it becomes part of something unstoppable. The strength of the ant is not in its size, but in its togetherness. Where humans often wait for storms to scramble, the ant has already built its shelter. While we whisper tomorrow, the ant completes today. While we delay with doubts, the ant moves with discipline. While we expect to be led, the ant leads itself. No applause, no spotlight, only purpose in motion. An ant colony is a living mosaic of unity in diversity. Soldiers defend, workers build, nurses tend the young, foragers gather. The queen births life. Each role is different, yet none is lesser. There are no rivalries, no ambition for status, no jostling for position. Each ant understands a sacred truth. God didn't just create ants for ecology. Be diligent. Plan ahead. Prepare in peace before crisis demands your strength. Ant strength is not in standing alone, but in serving the whole. In contrast, today's world worships individualism. Every man for himself, every platform a throne. But the whisper of God's design can still be heard beneath the soil. We were created to collaborate. We are built to belong. We are strongest when we lift, not when we climb over each other. In the sun-drenched plains of Africa, there exists a story nature whispers, of ants who stand guard over trees, not with swords or roars, but with unity and tenacity. When elephants, giants of the wild, come to feed, these tiny warriors rise. They bite, they swarm, and they drive back beasts 1,000 times their size. We measure strength by size. God measures it by spirit. The world tells you you're too small to matter, too ordinary to lead, too weak to win. But heaven tells a different story. God chose David, a shepherd boy, to topple a warrior giant. He chose Moses, a man slow of speech, to break the chains of an empire. And yes, he even uses ants to humble the proud and protect what is sacred. What we call insignificant, God calls instrumental. The miracle is not in their might, but in their togetherness, their courage, and their purpose. So if you feel too small to stand up, remember the ant. Stand anyway, fight anyway, begin anyway. For in God's, it's never about how big you are, but how willing you are. Ants remind us that humility is strength, that unity is power, and that diligence bears fruit. In a world that rushes for the spotlight, ants live beneath it and still change the world. They do not seek applause, but they build civilizations. They do not cry for help, but they help each other. They do not possess wealth, but they show us what it means to invest in tomorrow. So the next time you see an ant, don't just step over it. Stop and think. These tiny giants are God's way of reminding us that success doesn't come from size, but from strategy, unity, and purpose. If this video gave you a new perspective, give it a thumbs up, share it with someone who needs encouragement, and most importantly, subscribe to this channel.